Before religion, before temples or divine hierarchies, there was only fire, the primordial spark that awakened awareness. That flame symbolized perception, creation, and the courage to question. Through the ages, the ancients called this light Lucifer, the bearer of brilliance, the one who gifted humanity with the fire of reason and the power to see its own destiny. As civilizations evolved, the same light that once inspired began to be feared. The fire that liberates also exposes. What was once a symbol of enlightenment became the emblem of rebellion. Humanity forgot that the light that fell from the heavens is the same that burns within, waiting to be rediscovered by those brave enough to seek truth instead of comfort. The story of Lucifer transcends religion. It mirrors the evolution of human consciousness, the journey of questioning what is imposed and paying the price for thinking. Across cultures, his image changed, yet his essence remained. The spirit that dares to fall in pursuit of truth rather than stand still in ignorance. Every fall marks the beginning of awakening. In antiquity, Lucifer was a symbol of wisdom that dared to speak. To classical poets, he was the star announcing dawn. To esoteric traditions, the first initiate, the one who faced the abyss to understand his own light. His myth is the reflection of mankind's struggle to know itself, to master its nature, and to rise above its shadows. As dogma took root, the symbol of free thought was reshaped by fear. The bearer of light became the enemy of heaven, yet the flame cannot be extinguished, only hidden. Luciferian goetia restores this truth. The fall is not punishment, but initiation. To fall is to learn. To rise again is to understand. The descent of the light was never a defeat. It was the beginning of consciousness. Luciferian goetia emerges as a path of reconciliation between light and shadow. It does not glorify destruction, but seeks balance. The true inferno is not beneath, it is within. It is the realm of emotion, fear, and desire. By crossing it, the seeker discovers the lost spark. Lucifer ceases to be an external myth and becomes the metaphor of an inner journey toward awareness. To contemplate the flame that fell from heaven is to perceive not a fallen angel, but a silent teacher. Every human fall holds the seed of ascension. Those who look inward find the same fire that once illuminated the heavens. Knowledge, when embraced with courage, becomes the bridge between man and eternity, between the finite and the infinite. Thus begins the Luciferian path, the realization that light and darkness are not opposites, but reflections of one another. The bearer of light also bears the burden of knowing, and every being who awakens their inner flame becomes, in a way, a reflection of that archetype. Lucifer is not the end, he is the beginning, the first spark of the infinite within man. The name Lucifer comes from Latin, lux ferre, to bring light. Long before religion claimed it, the word described the planet Venus, the morning star. It was the bright herald that rose before sunrise, announcing a new day. In ancient Rome, Lucifer was not a demon, but a celestial sign of beauty, intellect, and rebirth, a flame guiding humanity toward understanding. In classical poetry, this star symbolized divine inspiration and illumination. Writers like Virgil and Cicero spoke of Lucifer as the spark that awakens thought. Only centuries later would fear replace reverence. As dogma grew, light became suspect. The brilliance of knowledge was recast as arrogance, and the pursuit of truth became a rebellion against authority. The turning point came in the 4th century CE, when St. Jerome translated the Bible into Latin. In the book of Isaiah 14:12, the prophet laments the fall of the Babylonian king, calling him Helel ben Shahar, the morning star. Jerome rendered it as Lucifer, and a poetic image of pride's downfall slowly hardened into theology. A metaphor became a myth of eternal exile. That translation changed everything. The bearer of dawn became the emblem of disobedience. The radiant star was cast into shadow, and the name that once meant enlightenment was chained to fear. Yet language remembers its truth. Lucifer still means lightbringer. The tragedy lies not in the fall itself, but in humanity's failure to see that illumination often demands descent. In the esoteric tradition, the morning star kept its original meaning. The light that falls is also the light that reveals. Lucifer represents the mind's descent into matter, the act of consciousness entering limitation to learn. To fall is to experience, to rise is to understand. In Luciferian philosophy, that descent is sacred, the divine spark seeking wisdom through incarnation. Within Luciferian goetia, the name regains its purity. Lux Ferrae becomes the symbol of the inner intellect that guides the seeker through darkness. The light is not external salvation, but internal awakening. To bear the light is to accept responsibility for one's awareness, to illuminate both virtue and shadow. The title of Lucifer is not a curse, it is an invitation to consciousness. Thus Lucifer is not a villain, but a process, the unfolding of self-knowledge. He is the inner voice that whispers, "Question everything." The morning star rises within anyone who chooses truth over comfort. Each mind that dares to think freely becomes a mirror of that ancient light. And every new dawn repeats the same story, the fall of ignorance and the return of understanding. Luciferian goetia is a modern reimagining of the medieval art of goetia, yet it shifts the entire paradigm. Traditional goetia dealt with summoning external entities. The Luciferian version turns the gaze inward. Its rituals are not about commanding spirits, but mastering the self. The demons of this system are not supernatural beings, but symbols of inner forces waiting to be understood and integrated. In this philosophy, every invocation is psychological. To evoke a spirit is to confront an aspect of one's own mind, fear, desire, pride, or potential. Through ritual, the practitioner externalizes these powers to observe and transform them. The magician's altar becomes a mirror, and the true summoning circle is drawn within the psyche itself. The art of goetia becomes the science of self. Luciferian goetia blends ancient symbolism with modern psychology and Gnostic philosophy. It views darkness not as evil, but as the unawakened part of consciousness. The shadow is not to be exorcised, but embraced. Lucifer represents the intellect that shines light into the unknown, the daring mind that explores the forbidden and returns wiser. To know oneself is the ultimate act of magic. This path rejects worship and submission. The divine is not a distant authority, but a state of being. The Luciferian magician does not kneel. He stands between heaven and hell as a bridge of understanding. Rituals, meditations, and sigils serve only as tools to awaken what already exists within. The goal is not salvation, but self-realization, a conscious union of light and shadow. Luciferian goetia teaches that each fall into chaos carries the seed of creation. The descent into one's fears becomes a descent into wisdom. Just as Lucifer fell to bring light to the world, the seeker descends into their own depths to reclaim the forgotten fire. The inferno becomes initiation, the darkness becomes a teacher. In this way, every wound becomes a source of illumination. To practice Luciferian goetia is to reclaim the divine spark through knowledge and discipline. It is not rebellion against heaven, but independence of thought. The practitioner learns that heaven and hell are mental states, not places. Balance is the true power, harmony between intellect and instinct, reason and passion. The Lightbringer's gift is not faith, but awareness. The Luciferian path is one of constant refinement. It demands honesty, courage, and persistence. The magician studies symbols not to worship them, but to decode the patterns of reality. Each experience becomes an alchemical step toward mastery. Goetia, once a practice of conjuring demons, transforms into a sacred psychology, a map of the human spirit and its endless potential. Among the leading voices of modern Luciferian philosophy stands Michael W. Ford, author, occultist, and visionary. Ford redefined goetia as a path of self-knowledge, merging ancient ritual with modern psychology. In his works, Lucifer is not a fallen angel, but the archetype of intellect and independence, the light of awareness that rebels against stagnation and ignorance. Ford teaches that the so-called demons of goetia are not entities to be feared, but reflections of the psyche. Each spirit represents an emotion, instinct, or aspect of will. To summon them is to face oneself. The magician who learns their language learns to control the mind. In doing so, the chaos within becomes power, and the inferno transforms into a crucible of creation. He calls this process apotheosis, the act of becoming divine through one's own effort. The Luciferian magician seeks not to worship but to evolve, to ascend through discipline, study, and will. In this state, divinity is not granted from above. It is awakened from within. The temple is the mind, the ritual, consciousness itself. Every thought becomes a sacred flame. Ford's philosophy draws from ceremonial magic, Gnosticism, and Jungian depth psychology. Symbols act as bridges between the conscious and the unconscious. Rituals become dialogues with the hidden self. In this way, Lucifer is not a spirit outside the magician, but the inner mentor, the spark of curiosity that defies limits and transforms darkness into understanding. In Luciferian witchcraft, Ford writes that true power is born from discipline. Magic is not fantasy, but focus. The practitioner becomes architect of his reality through will and imagination. Just as Lucifer brought fire to mankind, the magician kindles light within his own shadow. Knowledge becomes the torch, awareness the altar. Illumination is self-earned. Ford rejects absolute good and evil. Both are human constructs designed to control. Ignorance is the only darkness, and knowledge the only light. The Luciferian path teaches balance, reason without denial of passion, freedom without chaos. To walk it is to embrace both angel and demon within. The initiate learns that harmony, not purity, is the true measure of enlightenment. By merging philosophy with practice, Ford gave Luciferian goetia a new purpose, self-mastery. His vision continues to inspire seekers around the world, thinkers who see in Lucifer not a curse, but a code for evolution. The flame that religion condemned as rebellion becomes, in Ford's hands, the light of transformation, the eternal fire that forges the awakened mind. Within Luciferian goetia, Lucifer does not stand alone. He forms, together with Satan and Lucifuge Rofocal, the triad of light and shadow, three masks of one principle. They represent the cycle of awakening, will, and mastery. Each aspect mirrors a phase in the evolution of consciousness, the spark of awareness, the fire of defiance, and the wisdom of control. Together, they forge the path of self-deification. Lucifer, the first aspect, is the light-bringer, the awakening intellect. He is the flame of perception, the courage to question, the spark that ignites the search for truth. Within the magician, Lucifer represents insight, reason, and the hunger for knowledge. His light is curiosity itself, the sacred rebellion against ignorance. He is not the fallen one, but the rising mind of man. Satan is the second aspect, the adversary, the force of will. His name in Hebrew means the one who opposes. He is not evil, but resistance personified, the inner fire that refuses submission. Satan is the will to act, to challenge, to build and destroy. He is the impulse that drives creation. To face him is to face the part of ourselves that demands strength through conflict and independence. Satan's energy fuels transformation. He is the storm that clears the stagnant air, the spark that defies inertia. The Luciferian magician understands that the true adversary is internal: fear, self-doubt, and complacency. To conquer Satan is to harness him. The opposition becomes empowerment, rebellion becomes discipline. The will, once chaotic, becomes divine intention. The third aspect, Lucifuge Rofakal, is the keeper of the abyss, the lord of hidden knowledge. His name means he who flees from light, not in fear, but in wisdom. He governs the mystery of silence, secrecy, and balance. Where Lucifer brings illumination and Satan brings motion, Lucifuge teaches restraint. He is mastery, the ability to wield power without losing oneself to it. Lucifuge is the embodiment of controlled strength. He represents the wisdom that emerges once knowledge and will are united. The magician who embodies Lucifuge becomes sovereign of his own nature. He is neither slave to instinct nor prisoner of intellect. He stands in the stillness between opposites, a living symbol of harmony. His rule is quiet, his power absolute. Together the triad reflects the alchemy of awakening. Lucifer awakens thought, Satan awakens fire, Lucifuge awakens control. Knowledge, will, and mastery form the pillars of the Luciferian temple. This triad is not theology, but psychology, a mythic framework for human evolution. The practitioner who internalizes these forces becomes architect of his destiny, sculptor of his divine nature. The Luciferian triad is not about worship, it is a mirror. It shows that divinity is a process, not a gift. Awakening demands thought. Freedom demands struggle. Mastery demands silence. In balancing the light of Lucifer, the fire of Satan, and the depth of Lucifuge, the seeker discovers himself as both creator and creation, the eternal flame that governs its own shadow. At the heart of Luciferian goetia lies an ancient paradox: illuminatio per tenebras, illumination through darkness. It teaches that true light is born not from fleeing the shadows, but from entering them with awareness. The initiate does not fear the abyss, he studies it, for it is within the depths of the self, where fear and desire dwell, that the divine spark is hidden. To the Luciferian, darkness is not evil, it is unshaped potential, raw energy awaiting form. Just as gold must endure the fire to shine, the soul must face its shadow to awaken. The practitioner does not deny weakness or pain, but transforms them into wisdom. Mastery arises not from avoidance, but from understanding. Light is born through contact with the unknown. Luciferian philosophy rejects the childish duality of good and evil. Light and darkness are not opposites, but complements. Shadow is the womb of creation, the silence before the spark. The descent into darkness is not corruption, it is initiation. The fall becomes a sacred act, the soul's journey into its own hidden chambers to retrieve fragments of lost divinity. This descent mirrors the mythic fall of Lucifer, not a punishment, but a quest for comprehension. The light-bringer descends to learn what the heavens conceal. Likewise, the magician descends into his own shadow to grasp the roots of human nature. Every fall holds a lesson, every pain carries a key. Suffering, when understood, becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. Illumination through darkness is not the worship of pain, but its transmutation. The Luciferian does not seek purity, he seeks totality. Fear becomes focus, chaos becomes creation. When the initiate faces his shadow, he becomes alchemist of the soul, refining ignorance into understanding. The inferno is no longer punishment, but the forge of enlightenment. Lucifer himself embodies this path. He brings the fire not to destroy, but to reveal. His light is not grace bestowed, but consciousness earned. Every step into darkness becomes a candle lit. Each doubt births a new star. Illumination is not divine favor. It is the result of courage, intellect, and self-awareness. It is the art of turning shadow into insight. Luciferian goetia seeks not heaven, nor fears hell. It strives for understanding. The initiate walks between both realms, recognizing them as inner landscapes. Darkness is simply the divine unperceived. By bringing awareness into shadow, the magician restores unity between human and divine. The more he understands himself, the more the universe reveals its reflection. Illuminatio per tenebris is therefore the path of courage, the art of looking within and not turning away. It teaches that we are made of the same fire we fear. Lucifer's light is not celestial. It burns within. Those who ignite it inside themselves discover the hidden law of all magic. To know is to free oneself. Knowledge is illumination, and awareness is liberation. To understand Lucifer is to understand the path of initiation itself. He is not merely a myth, he is an archetype, a mirror of human awakening. The light-bringer represents the moment the mind opens its eyes for the first time. Every seeker who questions, every thinker who defies silence embodies a fragment of that same fire, the divine impulse to know, to evolve, to become. In the Luciferian tradition, the initiate walks between worlds, intellect and instinct, heaven and abyss. He is both the student and the experiment. His task is not to worship light, but to carry it into darkness. Knowledge without humility becomes pride. Light without shadow blinds. The true bearer of light learns to balance clarity and mystery, intellect and intuition, creation and restraint. The archetype of Lucifer demands courage. It is not the courage to dominate, but to face truth. The initiate must confront his illusions, question inherited beliefs, and dismantle comforting lies. Each revelation destroys an old world. The fall of illusion is painful, yet necessary. Only through these symbolic deaths does the new self emerge, wiser, freer, and aflame with awareness. Lucifer teaches through paradox. Ascend by descending, gain by losing, illuminate by embracing shadow. The more one knows, the more one realizes how little can truly be known. This humility is his hidden wisdom. The initiate who seeks to embody the light-bearer learns to walk with serenity in uncertainty, seeing divinity not in perfection, but in perpetual becoming. The path of the light-bearer is not one of rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is rebellion with purpose, to break what imprisons the mind and rebuild it with understanding. The Luciferian does not destroy faith. He transforms it into direct experience. His altar is reason, his prayer is contemplation, his offering is discipline. He honors the divine through mastery of the self. To walk this path is to become one's own teacher. The initiate learns that truth cannot be given, it must be lived. Luciferian wisdom is experiential. Each insight is earned, not revealed. There are no saviors here, only mirrors. The light-bearer is not an external being, but the awakening of inner sovereignty, the realization that the highest God speaks through human consciousness. Lucifer's archetype reminds us that enlightenment is not a destination, but a movement, a constant dialogue between clarity and chaos. The initiate must return to the world, carrying the flame into the mundane. Every act of creativity, compassion, or understanding is an expression of that inner fire. To bear the light is to live consciously in a world asleep. The path of the light-bearer is the eternal return of knowledge to compassion. Power serves wisdom, intellect serves creation. To embody Lucifer is to integrate opposites, spirit and matter, heaven and earth, angel and man. The initiate who achieves this balance becomes not a god above others, but a being fully awake, the living reflection of the flame that once fell from heaven. The fall of Lucifer is one of humanity's oldest metaphors, a divine descent misunderstood as punishment. In Luciferian philosophy, the fall is initiation, the moment the divine spark enters the realm of matter. To fall is to experience, to feel limitation, to learn through contrast. The descent is not exile but incarnation, the spirit stepping into shadow to discover its own light. Every fall in myth or in life conceals a secret, transformation. The initiate must descend into confusion before clarity can emerge. Just as a seed must sink into the soil to grow, consciousness must bury itself in darkness to awaken. Lucifer's fall is humanity's story, the voyage of awareness through forgetfulness, the eternal cycle of loss and remembrance that shapes the soul. The descent is deliberate. It is the magician's vow to confront what lies below, fear, guilt, and mortality. Each level of shadow reveals a lesson. To fall consciously is to descend with open eyes, turning suffering into structure and ignorance into insight. The initiate who endures this path learns that darkness is not the absence of divinity, but its unpolished mirror. In ancient mystery schools, initiation often symbolized death, not physical but psychological. The candidate would descend into the underworld, face symbolic demons, and rise reborn. Lucifer's fall echoes this rite. His story becomes a blueprint for the soul's transformation, descent, ordeal, illumination, and return. Every rebirth demands a symbolic death. To the uninitiated, the fall looks like failure. To the wise, it is evolution. Lucifer's light shines brighter in the abyss because it has known darkness. The same is true for the seeker. Wisdom is earned through wounds. The scars of descent are marks of initiation, symbols that one has faced the storm and emerged conscious. The light that never falls has never lived. The return is the final stage of the fall. Once the lesson is learned, the initiate brings the light back to the surface, transformed, humbled, and renewed. This is the true redemption, not forgiveness, but understanding. Lucifer returns as teacher, not conqueror. His ascent is not a rebellion against heaven, but the restoration of balance between spirit and experience. The myth of the fall is therefore not tragedy but alchemy. Heaven and hell are no longer destinations, but stages of inner evolution. To fall is to learn the language of shadow. To rise is to speak it with wisdom. The Luciferian sees every descent, every failure, heartbreak, or doubt as an invitation to grow. In the end, all falls are sacred. And so the circle completes itself. Light descends, learns, and ascends anew. This is the eternal rhythm of consciousness, the pulse of the divine fire within matter. Lucifer's story is not of exile, but of expansion. His flame burns wherever knowledge is sought, wherever awareness is born from pain. The fall is not the end, it is the beginning of the return to the self. The Luciferian path is not a religion. It is a philosophy of becoming, a dialogue between light and shadow, intellect and instinct, creation and chaos. It teaches that every human being carries a fragment of the same fire that once fell from heaven. The true temple is consciousness, and the true ritual is awareness. To live lucidly is to practice magic every moment one chooses to awaken. Luciferian goetia reveals a truth often feared, that the divine does not dwell apart from man, but within him. Each thought, each act of courage, each honest question is an invocation of that inner fire. Divinity is not given, it is realized. The magician who lights his own flame discovers that heaven and hell are states of mind, and salvation is simply understanding. The eternal flame symbolizes the will to evolve. It never dies, it only changes form. Even when buried in ignorance or despair, it waits, silent, patient, alive. The task of the Luciferian is to uncover it, to feed it with knowledge and discipline until it burns again. For every spark rekindled within one's soul illuminates the path for countless others lost in shadow. Lucifer's legacy is not rebellion against divinity, but rebellion against blindness. His myth reminds humanity that obedience without understanding is not virtue, but surrender. The Luciferian refuses to bow to fear. He seeks mastery through clarity, not through faith. In the mirror of Lucifer's fire, man sees himself not as sinner or saint, but as creator, responsible for his own evolution. Illumination, then, is not a reward. It is the natural result of consciousness expanding through experience. Knowledge replaces belief. Reason replaces superstition. The initiate learns to navigate chaos with purpose. Light without shadow is blindness. Shadow without light is despair. The balance between both becomes the art of living, the alchemy of existence itself. The goetia of Lucifer teaches that every being is both divine and incomplete, perfect only in the act of transformation. The flame within each heart is the same that burns in stars. To live Luciferian is to become aware of this shared fire and to act with deliberate creation. The magician's vow is simple: to illuminate, not dominate, to liberate, not enslave. Those who walk this path do not seek followers but equals, fellow bearers of light. The true Luciferian is a teacher and a student, forever learning, forever illuminating. His journey is endless because awareness has no limit. The flame passes from mind to mind, generation to generation, until all ignorance has turned to understanding and all darkness has served its purpose. In the end, Lucifer is not a being, he is a principle. The eternal flame within all consciousness. It burns in every question, every act of creation, every moment of awakening. To honor him is to awaken oneself. The light that fell has never died. It lives in those who dare to see, to think, to know. That is the message of Luciferian goetia. The flame is within you.